And any Lassiter. Hi, Clearwater. You're on the air, WPLP.
Hello. About AIDS. The figure that only 20 to 30% who now harbor the AIDS virus will actually come down with the disease, I believe is no longer correct. According to a recent controlled study...
Well, ma'am, I don't care whether or not you believe it is correct. What are we going to do about the disease?
A recent controlled study said of 50%...
Ma'am, what are we going to do about the disease?
Well, if everybody who now harbors the virus, where you say 20 to 30% will only come down, and therefore it would be incorrect to incarcerate those people.
I said nothing of the kind, ma'am.
Well, you said that it would be unfair for 70% who might...
No, ma'am, I did not. No, ma'am, I did not. I simply asked a question.
All right. I believe that you're going to have to incarcerate people or quarantine them, just as you did with tuberculosis, because the studies now show that everybody who now harbors the virus will eventually come down with active AIDS. And the question of cost being prohibitive to put quarantine 1.5 million people, it will get to a point where no amount of money, if no incarceration takes place, will take care of the disease. And as I said, a recent controlled study says...
Okay, that's all fine and well. First of all, how do we identify the 1.5 million people who have it?
There'll have to be mandatory testing.
How do you test 250 million people?
Well, how did we vaccinate practically every man, woman, and child with the smallpox vaccination? It can be done.
Ma'am, we don't...
We did.
Ma'am, there are 250 million people in this country, and over a 70-year period, we vaccinated all of them.
That's true.
It wasn't done quickly.
But we have to start somewhere, and if you keep on saying, how can we spend...
Well, somebody's got to say, how can we, ma'am, because just blowing steam off doesn't solve anything.
We're going to have to institute a program where people are going to have to be tested.
Okay, right now it costs $50 for the most cursory test.
That is because there is a profit margin there with the drug companies.
Okay, well, let's say it's only $10, okay?
All right, then that will have to be expended through taxes, because eventually we're going to be overburden our hospitals, or every institution. I mean, we're going to come to a standstill. So you're going to have to expend the $10 now, or no amount of money in the future is going to take care of it.
Well, now, hear me out. Let's say it's only $10. First of all, the cost $2.5 billion just to run the test.
All right, that's
fine. If we ran the test, ma'am.
All right.
If we ran the test 6 days a week for a year, we could administer it to 1 million people a day.
All right. Then we start with the high-risk group.
What do you mean we start with... Ma'am, what do you mean we start with a high-risk group?
The testing.
Well, how do you do that, ma'am? What do you do, put an ad in the paper and say all druggies show up tomorrow for the test?
No. It's going
then how do you start with a high-risk group, ma'am? Ma'am, then how do you start with a high-risk group? I'm just in no mood for nonsense.
The high-risk group has submitted to testing. Voluntarily, a lot of them.
Yes, ma'am, they have, but a lot of them haven't. The majority have not.
All right. Then through education, we're going to have...
No, ma'am, let's go back to start with a high-risk group. I want to know how you start with a high-risk group.
Well, yourself, for instance, have you been tested since you said that you were a drug user of any type of drug?
I never used an intravenous drug, ma'am.
How do you know if you were high? You said you were stoned.
Oh, man, give me a break. Give me a break, ma'am. And besides, it was 25 years ago.
Oh, but then you've had no...
How do you start with a high-risk group, ma'am?
You've led a celibate
How do you start with a high-risk group?
All right. If you haven't led a celibate lifestyle, you are in the high-risk group.
Great, ma'am. Now, how do you get off... Now, great, ma'am. Get off my phone, you old bag. And don't ever bother calling me again. I'm in no mood to suffer fools. This is a damn serious problem. And I'll be damned if I'm going to put up with some old goat who doesn't know what in the hell she's talking about, babbling on and then not even having the courtesy to respond to a question.